Okay, hello everybody, welcome back. Carl again. Alright, today we're going to do the electric railroad install on the steam engine. I've already started disassembly, and let me just show you what I did. So there is a screw at the top here that comes out, and then when you flip it over, let's move this to the side, there is two screws that go underneath of this thing. This one sits up here, and you pull those two screws out, then this comes off. The smoke unit, you have to remove this screw or this jumper wire here, which is actually attached underneath of there. So then this comes out, this slides out, and then you have to pivot this wheel around. Now, I went ahead and removed the switches, the little tiny screws underneath here for the switches, just to get them out of the way. This is where the E unit was, and it slid inside of here like this. Now this is going to be a really tight fit because there's not a lot of room for extra stuff, and in fact I don't even know if we're going to be able to get everything installed in here. We might have to put it in the tender and then run a little tether wire, and that seems to be the standard procedure for a lot of steam engines, but I don't think we're going to get both boards in there. Nevertheless, I got the old board out. You have this blue wire which goes to the motor, this red wire goes to the motor, and then you have this set of blue wires which come from the AC hot or the third rail on the pickup rollers. It goes to the smoke unit, and then it also runs back to the E unit. So that's where you're going to put your power in. The ground wire was just attached right there to a bonding screw, so that'll be pretty simple. This is the smoke unit on and off, and I'm going to leave that in there, and I'm going to have to use the switch that comes with it. I'll reinstall it in the same spot here for a program run. So hopefully I can put it together and see if I can't get it to fit in here. Again, there's not a lot of room. If I can't, I'm going to have to try to find a way of installing it in this tender. And as you can see, there isn't much room in the tender as well. Let's see, it looks like this. So you can see there's not a ton of room. There is some room, but not a lot of room. So we'll see. Hopefully I can get it to work in the inside of the steam engine, so we'll see. Alright, I'll be back with you. Okay, so I don't see how this board is going to fit in the factory spot. Here's where the factory E unit was. So this is what I'm going to do. The way this particular engine works is the smoke unit is actually tied into the motor. So only when the motor has power is the smoke unit actually working. And this isn't a fan driven smoke unit. This is just a very standard. It has this little mechanism here that as the wheels move, it pushes that plunger in and pushes a little air out. So I am going to leave that hooked up like that. I'm going to run 4 wires on a tether. I'm going to get positive or AC hot from the third rail pickup. I'm going to get ground because the wires that are in the tender are pretty thin, and I don't want to run a lot of current through those original wires. So I'm going to run hot, ground, and then I'm going to run the motor hot and the motor ground. So 4 wires. So basically this one connector that goes there, right here, this connector, those wires I'm going to run to a harness, and then I'll plug it into the tender. So I'm going to have to come up with something for that. You can buy those from the electric railroad company. You can buy little connectors. So I have enough parts laying around I can make my own. The other thing is the LED on this unit here has this nifty little plug-in module that actually plugs in here, and that's actually what this ground terminal is for. So I'm just going to leave that how it is. So for me, I won't need to run any of these features because I'm not going to use the smoke unit on the feature. There's no coupler on the front of the motor. I don't have sound, so I'm not going to worry about the chuff, and if I do, I'm just going to mount it on here, and then the harness will already be there. Or, excuse me, the module will be sitting right here, and everything else is fine, so I don't have to worry about only have to run those 4 wires. So I'm going to get some wires run, get it all buttoned back up. In fact, I'm not even going to put the program run switch. I'm going to mount that back here. Now, I don't want to screw into this because this is part of the air whistle, and so I don't want to mess up that sound. So I'm going to double side tape right here so it'll fit right in there. I'll still have access to the screw terminal if I want to utilize that, the rear coupler if I want to use that. This one's not electronic, so it doesn't make a difference at this point. And then I'll be able to run a wire from here over to this board to make it sound the air whistle. So that's where we're at with that. I'm going to work on trying to build some kind of tender setup, or not a tender, a tether, and I'll be back with you. Okay, so it's time to button this back up now. Let me just show you my progress. So I put, remember this was that gray connector, went ahead and painted it black so that it looks good. I'm probably, once I get the shell on, I'm probably going to end up wrapping these wires in like a black tubing so that it doesn't look so noticeable. Looking back, I wish I maybe would have put like a big piece of heat shrink on it so you really can't see it. I have my 2 thermal cutout fuses. One is coming from this wire here, this light blue one, which runs down to the pickup. It runs to the smoke unit without the fuse, and then the power comes from the 3rd row pickup through the thermal fuse and out on this red wire, which goes back to the TMCC board. And then I have this orange wire here, which comes from the motor driver board through the thermal fuse and then into this part. Now the directions on the command controller say don't put these capacitors on there. However, these were installed factory, so I'm going to leave them on just like they are. Switch here is for the smoke unit. I'm going to leave that installed in case I want to turn the smoke unit off. And I think that's it. And then, oh, the LED here in the front, that's this little socket, actually plugs in, and you can see that. So I'm going to leave that just how it was. So when the power is on, the LED light comes on. I did it that way because I want the least amount of wires running back to my tender where the command control board is. I have just power, ground, and then the 2 motor drive wires. I could probably not use the ground because there is ground coming in from the tender, but the wire is very thin. I don't want to run a lot of current through that. So I went ahead and decided just to use the ground that's here. If I wanted to put the smoke unit to the TMC board, I'd have to have another wire harness. Also, if I had sound, I would need that. But for this kind of basic installation, this is a generic steam locomotive. I don't think that's necessary. I also, remember, I put this holder back in for the original E unit, just so that it's there. Looking back, probably would have been easier just to leave the original E unit in and just clip the wires and tuck them to the side. So now comes the fun part of trying to put all this back together, and hopefully I can remember how it went. It's been a couple days now. I might have to watch my original video here. Alright, so I'll just put this screw here in the top. Let me show you a couple of little details here. So this metal frame that I was showing you earlier that these steam arms go into, that has a little groove that needs to slide in. So that's important. Also the smoke unit, you see, has these cutouts in here, so that needs to be in there. And then you have the screw. Don't forget about your ground wire. I actually dropped that screw in, so I just went ahead and attached this one. You can see the pivot arms are okay, and then I have the screw there at the top. So let me just get this one in here. Make sure when you're sticking it all together, you watch your wires. You don't want to pinch them. Oh, dropped it again. This wire's being a little tricky. And then there you go. So you can see the ground wires out of the way there. The next thing I'm going to do is put the smoke screw back in, or smoke switch, excuse me. And that has these little tiny screws that go in there. Okay, so I'm just about done with the steam engine Cruise Commander Lite install. I have got the whistle tender to work. I have the board mounted. You can see over here I installed the program run switch, and actually if you look underneath of here you can see the switch. I wanted it kind of out of the way. For now I just wrote the word run so I know which way it needs to be to run it. Let's see. And yeah, so I think that's it. I did get the factory horn reconnector to whistle, my little control board, and it's ready to go. The only thing I'm unhappy with is the way this tender cable worked out. Looking back, I wished I would have maybe put this part of the tether on the engine so that it came out a lot more. I had a lot more play with this connector, because when you link these two together, you can see it's really a tight fit, and trying to jam that connector in just doesn't seem to work. I did remove that zip tie here, hopefully that I can get a little play, because on the front of the steam engine, the shell here, see if I can get this in the shot, you can see there's a little hole, and that's actually where my cable comes out of. So now that I have a little play in this connector, I'm hoping that I can actually bring this up and then plug that connector right in there. I have a feeling that over time these connector pins are going to break, and I'm going to have to come up with another solution. So I might look and see if I can't find some other kind of tender arrangement or connector. Again, like I said, if I had it all over again, I think I would have mounted this plastic piece here. I would have stuck in here. And so then that way, if it would have been upside down, so this little button would be on the bottom, all I'd have to do is reach in here, push the little button, and it would come undone. And then all the play would be in this wire here. So I don't know. I guess we're going to have to see. But if I need to make that modification, I'm going to have to take the engine actually back apart and then this back apart and swap the harnesses over. I did leave a good amount of play. I learned that from the first install in these wires, and there's plenty of room. I just kind of linked them underneath. So if I need to cut, I can just simply cut this connector off, pull the tape off, and then start over. So I'm going to get it all buttoned back together, and then I'll show you a video of it working. Okay, so finally, after about 3 days of tinkering with this and drawing out diagrams, I think I finally have the factory whistle tender from the Lionel working. So let me just take you, here's what we have. So this is the factory board that comes with the tender. It usually has just AC hot and AC ground going to this board. When you push the whistle button, it actually sends a DC offset and triggers this board, which makes this whistle work. So now I have the Cruise Commander Lite board here installed, and I've been trying to figure out how to get this to work. Now, according to the Lionel website, or the Electric Railroad Company's website, it says that you attach a wire right to here, to this point, which I've done, right here, this yellow wire, and then you connect that to the pin 3 of the Rail Sounds connector. So that's for the AC Commander board, not specifically the Cruise Commander Lite. So I did email Electric Railroad Company, didn't really get anywhere. So I finally think I have it figured out. So this is what I did. This is the connector that comes with the Electric Railroad Company kit. It has red and black, which is power ground, and then the violet is actually serial data. So what I did was I took a little tiny screwdriver, and if you pry up on this little tab, this purple wire will come out, and then I moved it over to this third pin. So that's what I did here on this board. So it's actually red and black where they were, and then the violet has been moved from this fourth spot over here on this end, right here, and then I moved it over to that third spot, so that I actually now have a good solid connection. And that would seem to me to be the best way. I then run that over, and this is the circuit that I came up with that makes it work, and that's this little board right here. So let me just show you what we have here. So here is the connector. You have red, black, pin 3, and then the purple. And again, I move this purple connector down to pin 3. So you have red, goes through 1N4, 148 diodes. That's these little switching diodes. 1N914, excuse me, 1N914. Let me just write that on there, so everybody knows. Just small little switching diodes. So red comes out, and that gives me VCC, and then black comes out, and that gives me ground. So basically, AC power comes out of here, and I just half-wave rectify it to give me decent DC. And then I have a 100 UF capacitor across VCC and ground, or these pins, that gives me a little smoothing. 2N222A is an NPN transistor. Ground for the emitter, the base, through a 1K resistor over to that pin 3. And then the the collector here runs through a 1K to the base of a 2N3906 PNP transistor. Left side gets VCC. I'm not sure. I believe that's the emitter. That gets VCC, which is the same as over here. And then the right side goes to this horn wire, this yellow horn wire right here, which is what they talk about in this description. So, originally, I had this NPN as a 2N3904, and that worked okay testing, but apparently after a while it gets the current's too much and it blows, and then it just whistles constantly. So, I'm going to try with the 2N222A. Just quick test setup. I have just 18 volt transformer connected to the track. It's on full tilt with the command base connected to it. And we'll just push that back in the shot here. We'll turn the power on. Make sure nothing's shorting out the rails. That gives me power. Let me turn this light out, and you can see there's the light on the headlight. So we'll come back over here to the command base. Okay, so this is programmed as engine 2, so we'll do engine 2, hit the whistle horn button here at the top, and you can see I have a nice good response on the horn. So what I'm hoping for, I'm hoping that this 2N3906 PNP transistor is big enough. If not, I might have to get a little bit bigger one. Now, I did measure the current draw. This only takes like 10 milliamps of DC current to this wire to actually make this work. And again, all this is just really control circuitry. The factory board is still doing all the work. The nice thing is, you can see over here, this is the CW80. If I hit the whistle horn button, it still actually does work. Now, it's not quite as loud as it used to be. And the reason why is I actually switched out this resistor here, if I remember correctly. This used to be this resistor here, and let me just show you in the picture, it's a little easier to see. This resistor here for me was 10K, and this one here for me was 10K. And when I couldn't get it to work originally, I ended up switching this resistor to a 1K resistor, which is what's still in there. And that's what's in this picture. But you also notice this is a 4.7K, not a 10K. So now I have 10 and then 1. And I think that's why when you press the button on the CW80, it doesn't quite sound as well. So if you're still looking to use your factory transformer, then you might have to look into something a little different. But this is what I came up with. Alternatively, the Electric Railroad Company does publish under their hobby corner basically a triac controlled SSR, and that might be another option. The only thing you need to do to make this actually work is put in DC power to this line here. So that's really what I'm doing with this board. I'm just rectifying DC power. The other thing is this capacitor, before you have this, it wasn't enough to make it whistle. And now you can hear it's actually pretty responsive. So hopefully this actually works for me. I guess we're going to have to see. Okay, so again, hopefully this is helpful to you. And this can help you fix your problem. My next step is going to be to try and repair this electronic diesel horn board and actually make this work. Probably going to need the same circuit here that I used to control this circuit, because again, in the Electric Railroad Company's documentation, they talk about this specific board, you attach a wire to here, and it's supposed to make it work. So anyhow, hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, please ask them down below. I'll see what I can do to answer them for you. I'll go ahead and I'll post a link to my schematic here, so in case you're having similar problems, you want to make it work. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, everybody, one quick follow-up for the video. As I'm doing the video editing, I noticed that I'm missing a couple parts, and I just want to touch on some of my failures that I had here. Okay, so originally I did the diesel back there, this 3849 chassis system, and I bought two Cruise Commander boards, one for that engine and one for this engine. One of the boards that came didn't work, the 4RLC board. So I emailed Ken at Electric Railroad, told him I had an issue, and I had to send the board back, and he sent me another one. But unfortunately, that took about 2 weeks. So I'm actually about 3 weeks after the fact shooting this particular ending of the video. And I just want to talk about some of the things that I ended up changing. So the whistle tender still works with the board, and you saw that kind of just before this clip. There's also separate videos that talk about the diesel horn control for the diesel engine back in the back there, and then a whistle tender control for this steam engine. I still did use a tether. I ended up actually changing the tether harness, the way it works. Okay, so there still is 4 wires for the tender. It's power and ground from the track, or AC hot in, to the Cruise Commander Lite, and then a DC hot out and DC ground out for the engine. So everything goes back together the way it was originally, as I talked about in the video. I just want to talk about the difference I did was here in this tether. Let me just pull this apart and I'll show you. Okay, so here is the tender. This is the 4-wire cable that goes to the Cruise Commander Lite on that little board that we saw. And you see I just have like a little tiny piece of perf board with some 0.01 inch headers. And then on the actual back of the engine now, I have, this is an old hard drive connector for a floppy disk. And I had one of those laying around. So I ended up switching to that. By doing it this way, these wires were just a touch bit thinner. I got a little bit of better response out of the coupler. The other nice thing is it actually fit through this factory hole that came with it. Now, my advice to you is if you're buying a Cruise Commander board, just buy the tether harness. It's like $3 or $4. It's going to be worth every penny, and all the aggravation I went through to try to make this work just wasn't worth it. So buy the one from the Electric Railroad. But now you can see I can just plug this together, and I have it color coded with the red, and then this will actually fit in that factory hole there. And then when I couple it, now you can see it actually doesn't look too bad. And I, prefer that look. Now the harness is hidden. Usually the ones that come with them are black, and they tend to go up and then curve down. So, it would come out here, it would go up like in a little loop and then back in. So I actually prefer the way that looks. Now this does work just fine now. The whistle tender still works. And I'll go ahead and turn it on. So now I have track power. I don't know if you'll be able to see with the ambient light, but there's track power to the engine. Okay, so this is programmed as engine 24. So if I do engine 2-4, I can then hit the whistle horn button. And I have nice response and a good sound. If I dial the web thumb wheel up, you'll see it'll move. I can hit the stop button and then bring it backwards. And it works just fine. Okay, so moving forward, what I recommend is you get a tether harness designed to actually tether them together. You can kind of follow through the instructional video, and hopefully this is helpful to you guys. Remember, I have a diesel install on the channel. You can browse through the channels, and then also have separate videos on controlling the whistle tender and the diesel horn for the one in the back there. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. Please remember to hit the like button down below. Leave a comment if you have a comment. Let me know what you think. And hopefully this is of some use to you guys.